There we go. Dan doesn't know it, but he has kind of preached my sermon again. I'm not going to hold it against him. But he's a whacker doing that. Yeah, go home. I'm going to read Psalm 126. It's not a very long psalm, but it is incredibly poignant. And it speaks to, we've been looking at the last few weeks with seasons, on sowing seeds, on harvest, all those sort of themes. And today we're going to talk about a side of that we don't often touch on. It makes us uncomfortable to do so. But it is incredibly important if we're going to navigate different seasons in our lives. Psalm 126 says, "When the Lord restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dreamed. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. Then it was said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy. Restore our fortunes, Lord, like streams in the Negev. Those who sow with tears will reap with songs of joy. Those who go out weeping, carrying seed to sow, will return with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with them." And that's it. Who is the happiest person that you know? Don't ask your partner this, or your children. I asked mine, and I got told Mr. Tumble. It wasn't me. Mr. Tumble, if you don't know, he's a man with a spotty bag who's on children's television and is very happy all the time. Who's the happiest person? It's a silly question, and you might think, oh, it is silly because you don't know. You don't know who's really happy. You don't know if anyone's happy or not. You look at people around you and they're smiling. They look like they might be happy, but no one really knows inside whether they are. Today we're going to talk about happiness or joy. That's what we don't like happiness. Christians like to talk about joy. Oh, joy, joy, joy. Down in my heart. Where? Down in my heart. Oh, good, because it's not on your face. That kind of joy that we want. Or happiness, I think that's still a perfectly acceptable word, although Christians do get uncomfortable. We go to God for holy, but we don't go to him for happy. We think that's not what he's there for. But that's a problem. Because if we only go for God for holy, then we end up going to the world for happy. And so we end up going to God because we want to be holy and we want to be told off and we want to be told what to do. And then we leave here and we go elsewhere to find our happiness. And we are happiness addicts. We're going to find it wherever we can. And so if we're not finding it in God, it doesn't mean we don't find it anywhere else. Some of us like to eat sweets. We're preparing at the moment a roast dinner with a wonderful pudding. We're going to drink coffee. We're going to have something that we enjoy. But when it comes to church, spiritually, I want to feel bad. I want to be told God is old and mad and grumpy with me. You've got heated seats in your car. But when you come to church, you want to feel like we need the old cold pews back. So we sit up straight and pay attention and listen to what God's saying. This idea that our faith has anything to do with happiness, except good news, God is a happy God. There is a joy in his heart and a delight that fills him. But today we're not just talking about being happy and how nice it is. It's not happy, clappy and feel good and all those sort of things. We want to talk really about how hard happiness is. How hard it is to do. And in Psalm 126, we find this interesting psalm, just a bit of history. It's called a Song of Ascent. That little line under Psalm 126, that is in the original. That isn't added in after. A Song of Ascent. That means as they walked up to their church, their temple, to meet with God, they would sing this song. And they're walking up hills and going up and up and up. And they're walking up. And as they walk up, they sing these songs together. But a lot of these Psalms of Ascent are a lament. They're crying out. And so this one is saying, Lord, when you restored the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dreamed. We were people, and here's the history. They were taken into slavery. This is so far beyond us. We struggle to get our heads around it. These people were captured, exported to another country, and said, this is where you live now. They lost homes and jobs and familiarity, and some of them family members. Deported, imprisoned, some killed. They were taken out, and for 50 years they have not seen their home. They've had children that have grown up and never seen their homeland. And then after the series of events, they are brought back. And this song says, when we restored us, we were like those who dreamed. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. But then it goes on and says, Restore our fortunes, Lord. There was a time we had this hope, we had this joy, this expectation, but right now we aren't feeling it. It's difficult. And there's a lament there. So as they ascend up, they are spiritually going down. They are emotionally feeling like God. Oh, I lost my magnet. They are spiritually going down. And so there's this contrast that goes on. Now, bear that in mind. That's a bit of history, boring. Come back to the room. But that is going to be important later on. Psalm 126 isn't about just being joyful and happy. There is this process that it introduces us to show us how hard joy in the Lord can be, how difficult being happy is, but also how powerful it can be. And so I'm going to ask you to play along in a moment. And if you don't, then I'm just going to keep preaching till everyone is happy. Okay? That'll be the deal. Verse 3, it says, "The Lord has done great things for us." Now, can you just stand up if that's true of you at any point in your life? The Lord has done great things for us. Look at that. The Lord has done great things for us. Were they telling the truth when they said that? 50 years these guys have been in slavery. They've been in another country. They haven't seen their home. They get back to their home. The walls have been destroyed. Their temple does not exist. They have no place to worship God. That they are exposed to enemies around them. The Lord has done great things for us. But you haven't been here for 50 years. The Lord has done great things for us. You have no temple, no means of worship. It's destroyed. The Lord has done great things for us. You have no protection. You are exposed. The Lord has done great things for us. You have no food system. You have no means to get food and cultivate crops to feed your families. The Lord has done great things for us. Is this just an illusion? Is it positive thinking? Is this a yoga class? Or has the Lord done great things? Is that a fact? I mean, you stood up. I didn't see anyone check their calculator. I didn't see anyone get their bank balance out and read the statement. I didn't see anyone check their diary over the last week or look at their prayer journal or whatever it is that you have. I didn't see anyone do any sort of maths in their heads. You just stood up. Because in you, you're going, yes, the Lord, if you need to sit down, please do. But there is more to the illustration. So if you can stand up, please keep standing up. The Lord has done great things for us. But you hate your job. You're dreading tomorrow going in. But still, Dean, I'm standing because the Lord has done great things for me. Your parents just got diagnosed with dementia. But Dean, the Lord has still done great things for me. Your bills have just doubled overnight and you're not sure how ends are going to meet at the end of this month. But Dean, the Lord has still done great things for me. Your doctor told you that there are a lot of things that are working and a lot of things that aren't working anymore. Yeah, but the Lord has still done great things for me. My back's playing up and my kids aren't talking to me, but I still stand. I don't have to calculate because the Lord has done great things for me. We stood up so quickly. Is that true? That's fact. That's what he's saying. The Lord has done great things for me. And after 50 years, half a century, these people still say, the Lord has done great things for us. And now the next part. And we are filled with joy. Take a seat if you've ever struggled with that part. Take a seat if you've ever struggled to be filled with joy. You never had a bad day? Never been knocked down? Never been miserable? Never questioned? I'll get you. Now, you may today say we are filled with joy, but have you ever struggled having a day where that was the case? Because that's the tension we live in. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy, and yet often the Lord has done great things for us, but that joy seems hard to come by. God is so good, and he gives me all this, and still there is not this joy rising up. Happy is normal. Okay, happy is normal. That is what we are made for. This joy in God, this satisfaction, this contentment, and whatever. That's what I'm meaning by happiness. That is normal, but it is not natural. It's what we are made for, but it doesn't come easily to us. And the way you can tell this is by how quickly you unsmile when someone takes a picture of you. You ever notice that? I love watching it when someone does a group photo and there's someone who never really likes to smile, and they smile for the photo, and as soon as the camera goes, back to normal face. I wonder, how quickly do you unsmile after church? How soon is it that it drops from your face and you go? I know some of you cut out the middleman, you just don't smile while you're here, so you don't have to revert to form. But how quickly does that joy rise up, that celebration, and then something takes it? Often it's because our motivation, our quest for joy is based on some faulty assumptions. Some of us base it on the if I had equation. If I had, then I would be. If I had this, if I earned this, if I was there, if I could do this, then I would be. Let me just say, there is no formula for joy that starts with if I had. There is a formula for a brief high, a brief excitement, a brief buzz, but there is no formula for deep, lasting, spiritual, unshakable joy that starts with if I had. Because as I've already referenced this week, things are shaky. There is nothing you can put it in. There's no situation or circumstance that you can put your joy in and rest it on that will last. If I had, it doesn't work out. There is no formula that says that it will. If they say is the other one. There's a famous story in the Old Testament. Jacob is a man, and he falls in love with a lady called Rachel. Now it says Rachel had a sister. Rachel was beautiful, and Leah had a great personality, is what it says. And they're both married to Jacob, which, by the way, is a recipe not for happiness. They're both married to the same guy. And they start bearing him children, which is all about continuing a family line and honouring the husband in the relationship. And so Rachel was unable to have children, and Leah has many. And she has more and more, and then she gives her servant, and Jacob has more and more. And it seems like there's this competition going on between Leah and Rachel to earn this man's affection. He doesn't really love Leah, and she keeps bearing him children. And it's a really sad story of this woman who gives him another, and gives him another, and gives him another. And Jacob doesn't even really know who he is at this point. Doesn't even know what it is to be loved himself, and yet she keeps trying to earn this love from him. And at one point she has this child, and it says, Leah has this child called Asher, which means happiness. And it says, how happy I am. The woman will call me happy. So she named him Asher. In the story, I think what we're meant to say is, who are you trying to kid? Here you are bearing children for a man who doesn't love you, and now you're going, finally, this is the one that will make him love me. This is how happy I am now, because finally I've earned his love, and they will call me happy. And the question is, who cares what they say? Who cares what anyone else says? Who cares what anyone else sees? Because it doesn't matter how others perceive you. If that joy isn't in you, then it isn't there. No matter what people see on the outside, the women will call me happy, but it doesn't matter. If they say I'm happy, then I must be happy. If they say I'm successful, then I must be. And that, again, is a horrible strategy for happiness, because it's only as safe as the person you put it in. If that person changes, if their opinion changes, or their attitude changes, then it goes. Ever met a comedian? Ever met a happy comedian? I'm sure they are out there, but I'm amazed at how often you hear the story that these comedians are some of the saddest people. Able to make others laugh, and people say, well, they're funny, they're happy, look at them. And yet underneath, there is a despair and an emptiness and a crying out. Some, and we've seen it recently, even to the point where they take their own lives. And I'm not talking about the mental illness and the things that might go along with that and cause that, but to understand that there is something in this attitude of impressing others that doesn't lead to joy in us. And what gets me is there is someone on your row, 3 seats in any direction, who will be experiencing something like this. Knowing that God is good, because he all stood up, he's done good things, and yet struggling with that joy that can be found in him. And so I think this is for us. This is a community song. It's not just for us individuals, it's us as a community. but I don't know what's happening with you. You could turn to the person next to you and say, I don't know you. Doesn't matter how long you've been with them, you could still turn and say, I don't know you, because I don't know what's happening in you. And maybe they lifted their hands in worship, and maybe they didn't. Maybe they sound like they were singing a bit louder today, or they weren't. Or maybe they had a smile as they came in, or they didn't. But it doesn't. It's still the truth that happiness is difficult. Joy escapes us. And yet there's a link. If God has done good, then we can be filled with joy. But it's not really your job. And it's not my job to make you happy today. Your job is your joy. Your joy is your job even. My joy is my job. Joy is normal but not natural. And so the psalmist does go on and suggest there are some choices you and I can make that can lead us onto a path of happiness. He says, restore our fortunes, O Lord, like streams in the Negev. And that sounds lovely. It's kind of this beautiful picture, streams in a desert, in a wilderness place. Streams in the Negev is interesting because the Negev doesn't have streams. It's so dry and so barren, it doesn't really have little rivers running through it. What it has is a flood season of the year where the rain pours down and the floods come up, and normally it's devastating. It's the kind of rivers or streams that would sweep away bridges and houses and homes, kind of rivers you see in Pakistan where whole communities are wiped out because they just aren't prepared for this onslaught of water. And he says, restore our fortunes like striver, like streams, like abundance of water in the Negev. To which you go, is that really what you want? That doesn't sound like the kind of thing you should be asking for. It's not gentle streams of lambs and butterflies by it. It's torrents of water pouring down that are terrifying if you aren't prepared for them. And there's the clue. We often ask God for something that we aren't prepared to receive. And if he were to give it, it wouldn't be a blessing for us to receive it. We're asking God for something, for some joy, for him to do something that we have to prepare ourselves to receive. And because we aren't prepared, if it gets poured out, all it does is more damage. And so we need to prepare. We don't just ask God and sit back and wait for him, for the faith fairy to tuck a bit of joy under our pillow. He says that there is a preparation, there is a receptiveness in your heart, there is an attitude, a stance for you to receive what God has to give. It isn't sit back and let God, or let go and let God, as we often say. It's trust God and get going. It's trust God and start preparing. Start digging holes is another biblical reference where they dig holes waiting for the rains to come. We have to start doing things that prepare to receive what God might give us. And then he says, restore our fortunes, and then those who sow with tears will reap with songs of joy. Those who sow with tears will reap with songs of joy. Oh, sorry, all over the place. And it was there that I got stuck when I was looking at this week. Sowing with tears. Now, he doesn't say sowing tears. That's how I've always read it, which is kind of the things will get better. You know, if you're down one day, you'll be up the next. Just don't worry, it will all work out in the end. You know, these kind of things that we say but don't really mean, but that's all we got. The Bible isn't like that. It isn't just saying, you know what, things will get better tomorrow. You might be sad today, but it will pick up. Don't worry about it. He doesn't say you sow tears. He says you sow with tears. It repeats it in verse 6. It says, those who go out weeping, carrying seed to sow. So it's not the tears that you're sowing. That's how I pictured it. You sow tears, you reap joy. There we go. We'll be all right in the end. No, this is a decision we make. He says, as you sow with tears, as you go out weeping, carrying seed to sow, you will carry in joy. You will reap songs of joy. You will return with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with you. There is something we can do in those moments where tears come easily. In those moments where joy escapes us, where instead of mouths being filled with laughter and song, they are filled with sorrow and lament. Those moments where everything is dark and difficult when we don't have an answer. I never know really how much to share, but I know there are some here who that is the story. That's where you are. All you have is tears. All you have is sorrow. And so someone standing up going, you know what, happiness is really good. Let's all be happy. Let's find joy. it's not connecting. The Lord, yeah, he's done great things for us, but it's so hard. And here the psalmist says, you can do something even in that place. You can do something with that. You can sow while you feel like that. Because this isn't about just getting high. If we want to get high, let's all go to OK Diner, order one of their milkshake things, get a sugar rush, and we'll be buzzing for the rest of the week. But church faith isn't about getting high. It's about this deep, untouchable, infinite joy. Joy unspeakable, the New Testament says. Joy that surpasses the circumstances. Joy that doesn't fit in the if I had. It also fits in the if I don't have. A joy that fits when it's not when they say, it doesn't matter what anyone says, it's still there. A joy that is rooted and grounded in a God who is infinite himself and the source of all joy. A God who puts his Spirit in us, who bears the fruit of joy. There is a way to get that, but it's a hard work of happiness. And it involves sowing with tears. It means learning to sow while I weep. It means sowing with anticipation. Even though I'm finding it hard to believe it's even possible, I still choose to get up and go out and sow this seed. It's a hard work that says I'm going to go in even though everything in my emotions tells me I don't want to. It's the hard work that says I'm going to show up even when I don't feel like it because my emotions are not in charge. It's a hard work that says I'm going to pray into this. I'm going to sow into this even though it breaks my heart to have to do so. It's a hard work that says I'm going to search for him even though everything in my mind and my heart tells me he's not even there to be found. It's a hard work that ascends even while your heart is descending. That's why I pointed that out. It wasn't just a nice historical thing that they did at that time. It's our life. Our life sometimes means ascending, sowing into God while our hearts are descending in despair. And it's hard, hard work. But the alternative is to bury it and to hide it and to keep it. We are addicted, maybe I'm speaking for myself, addicted to self-pity. I'm a mess and it's all wrong and it's not good and this is hard and this is difficult and so I'll just shut down, I'll just turn off, I'll just pull away. But there are those who have found this secret. That even in that feeling, you can still sow, you can still give, you can still share, you can still pray, you can still seek, you can still bring yourself and put yourself in that place to receive. You can still prepare for when the streams come. You can still be digging holes and dams and all the other things, preparing for that water to come. You can do that even while you weep. And it is hard work, but it's the hard work of happiness. It's the hard work that then leads to returning with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with you. That there is a return journey where you have what you wouldn't have had otherwise. Where you found what you wouldn't have found otherwise, where your fortunes are restored and your tongue is filled with praise and your heart is filled with love. You can sow with tears regardless of the situation. And it means you take new patterns. But the alternative is saying, Lord, give me joy, and then sitting there not willing to sow into what you're asking for. We want breakthroughs, we ask for them, or we blame and we get jealous, but we're saying, you know what, Lord, there are things that if I don't sow through this, then I'm going to settle. But I want that happiness, that joy that can't be shaken, because what that means is that I found you. It's not really about the joy. The joy is just a sign that you found him. That you've discovered him, that you're holding on to him in the midst of what you're going through, and he's what we really want. The joy is the byproduct, the joy is the fruit of finding him in it. And the way to find him is often to sow and to seek and to search and to pray, even when it doesn't feel like that's what you should be doing. Like I said, it feels like we've had to live, often I feel we have to live messages before we share them. And I know I've shared with some of you, Naomi and I this week went through another miscarriage. We had one before James, and then we had the boys. and incredibly grateful. And this week we've been through that again. It's so different this time, having the boys and the joy of that. The Lord has done great things for us. And so we stand up on that and we look at that and we're so much more grateful for that. On the other side, there's still that, but there's still an ache. There's still a hurt. And so this verse has been speaking to us. We sow with tears so that we will reap with songs of joy. We don't hide it. We don't ignore it. We don't say it doesn't really matter. We don't all the other things that we can come up with why it's not as bad as it possibly could be. We take those tears and we grab our seed and we carry on sowing. Keep searching. You keep praying. You keep seeking. And for you, like I said, your gap will be somewhere else. You don't know what's going on 2 places from you. Maybe you don't even know what's going on in you. But there'll be something, there'll be a gap there somewhere. And the temptation to go, you know what, I'll just sit back. Maybe today is that nudge to say, how about you get up and you sow, despite how you're feeling? How about you put your faith in charge and not your feelings? And you say, I'm going to keep sowing. I'm going to keep giving. I'm going to keep praying and seeking, not because I feel like it, because if it was my choice, I'd curl up in a ball and shut the doors and never speak to anyone ever again. But this is an invitation from my Father who is the source of all joy, my Father who sustains and keeps me, my Father who sees my tears and numbers my tears and knows them and one day will wipe them all away. And perhaps I can keep doing it despite the way that I'm feeling. See, Jesus talks about this in another way, about servants who are entrusted with something and they do different things with it. And to one of them at the end he says, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many. Come and share your master's happiness. Our master is happy. Our master has happiness that he wants to share with us. That's his invitation. And it can be found, but often only through hard work. Today, if it's easy for you, wonderful. There are days like that, where it's very easy. You put your bucket outside, or literally today, and it gets filled up within seconds. There are some days where you put it outside, and you wait, and you wait, and it doesn't seem to be filling up. It doesn't seem to be working. But you say, tomorrow I'll go again. And I'll go again. And I'll go again. Because the Lord has done great things for me. I know it's there. And I know sometimes it's difficult. This psalm of ascent can be your declaration. It can be your prayer. And so we're making that our declaration today. Lord, the Lord has done great things for us. And we are filled with joy. And if I'm not, then I'm going to get to work. I'm going to start sowing. Maybe it's returning to church. Maybe this is the first time you've been back in a long time because you've just been too hurt. It's too difficult. Perhaps it's that relationship. Perhaps you need to start that conversation with God, speaking to him again. Maybe it's searching his word again and finding the life that it's found there. Maybe it's serving and giving, turning your attention towards someone else. And maybe, as Dan said, maybe it's just giving it all to God. Casting your cares on him because he cares for you. Maybe it's just that act of saying, God, I'm giving this to you. I'm chucking it on you because I can't bear it anymore. And then we wait. We wait for the sound of rain. Wait for the streams to rise. And for our fortunes to be restored. So that we return with songs of joy, carrying the harvest, the sheaves with us as we go. We're going to finish with a song that talks about this. It was written by a music group that struggled with this idea of standing up, inviting people to enter God's joy and to come to him and talk about how wonderful he is, and yet feeling inside this distance, seeing God do great things and yet feeling an emptiness in them. And so they wrote this song about that feeling. They wrote it from their perspective. Like I said, you will have your own. But I just think it's so unusual as a song, because it's not the kind that we sing that says, God, you aren't doing what I think you should. You haven't given me what I thought you should. It hasn't come through in the way I thought it would come through. And yet I'm still going to sow. I'm still going to seek. I think it becomes all the more powerful because it's written from that place. As they ascend in praise, their hearts are descending. And God meets us in the gap there. Let's just listen to this song together. Let's pray. Father, we can declare you have done great things for us. And we also wrestle with that joy, that peace, that we realised is normal for us, is our gift, is our inheritance in you, yet doesn't come naturally. For many of us, Lord, this is the place where it feels like we just walk away. Faith doesn't work. God isn't there. He isn't good. And so we're gone. And this psalm is an invitation to go deeper in a way that, to be honest, can be terrifying. And yet really is the path to that joy, unspeakable joy, unshakable. Those today, Lord, with tears, may they find the courage and the will to keep sowing with tears in their eyes. May they find the strength to carry seed out to sow even while they weep. May they keep on. As they do, Lord, may they find you restoring their fortune. May they find songs of joy returning. May they reap the harvest that you have for them. May they find that you were never very far away, that their emotions are not in charge, that their faith in you is not misplaced. Help us, Lord, to commit to this hard work. Not because we just want to be happy and get on with our lives, but because it leads to you. You are the Lord who shares his happiness with his children. You're the one who invites us. You are the one for eternity will delight us with your presence and your goodness and your glory. And if in this life all we find are tears, we thank you for the hope that there is another, a future, where our Father comes to wipe away every tear and to heal every hurt and to restore our fortune forever. We thank you, Jesus, for your story, because your story went through tears, that you wept, but for the joy set before you, you pressed on. And you received it. We follow in your footsteps. We thank you that we do. We are not alone.
ask Lorna just to play and just sit and think on that for you at the moment. Then when you're ready, please come through. There's tea and coffee. There's also cake left over from the fundraiser, the breast cancer awareness fundraiser yesterday. If you'd like to give some money to that, I'm sure that'll be gratefully received, but that's where all the cake has come from today. If not, then we'll see you either tonight or next week. God bless.